This is Zichru Daf Simanim Gemara Sanhedrin Daf Gimel, and the siman for Daf Gimel is always going to be Gimel is going to be a camel, a Gamul. So our camel in Daf Gimel, as we see over here, the camel is being held by three, interesting characters sitting on the corner. The Yoshvei Kranais, simpletons that, believe it or not, maybe they could judge a case because midaraisa you only need one dayan. But why are we need three? Because maybe the people that are going to judge are not going to really know anything. The Yoshvei Karanais, and that's why a second opinion why we need three dayanim. Now on the camel, we see on his blanket over here, it says the word Elohim, meaning judge, three times. That's just going to be a source that you need three dayanim. And finally, we see an interesting Bezdin sitting over here. And what's interesting is that there are four people. Four people, 1 second. What happens if it's going to be a split verdict? The machlaikas, if you're able to have a Bezdin of even numbers. So we have Daf Gimel, our camel, our Gamul. Zichru Sanhedrin, when we think of a camel, of course, we got to start thinking about the Yanim. So the camel's being held by these interesting Yoshvei Karanais, these simple people, that they are the reason why, even though midaraisa, one dayan would have been enough, but midrabanan we require three because of the Yoshvei Karanais. Another source is that engraved on the blanket of this camel is Elohim, as the Torah says, judges three times. And finally, you have standing over here a Bezdin of four people. Are you able to have an even number? What about if there's a split verdict? So we go a little bit deeper into our 3 points. Point number one, that the second opinion is midaraisa, really you could have one dayan. 3 dayanim are only required midrabanan. Rachabed Ravika explains, why do we need 3? But now mumchen midaraisa, 1 dayan is enough, as the pasuk says, v'sedik tishvait ami secha. So why do we need 3, says our Mishnah? The perek, dine momen is bishleisha. Mishem yeshei kranais, people don't really know the halacha. Once we need 3, inevitably one of them is of course going to know the halacha. Although regular dayanim midarais are going to be fine, they're still going to have to pay if they judge incorrectly. Why? Because if they're going to be pater, then every yeshiv karnais are going to judge, and no one's going to learn the halachas. Explains the Gemara, what is the difference between this teretz and the teretz that we spoke about yesterday of Rava is going to be the din of Shmuel, which is what happens if 2 people judge a case. Is it going to be kosher? Rava, who learned yesterday that midaraisa you need 3 mumchen, is going to argue on Shmuel. But Rachabed Ravika, that today is saying that really 1 is enough midaraisa. 3 is just because of those Yoshei Kranais will agree with Shmuel that judge will be a good din. Point number 2 is going to be, what is the makar? Another makar. On the side of our camel, it says the word Elohim 3 times. Rav Aishia says the Torah 3 times in the Psukim, requiring 3 judges. And says the first one we don't mention. Why? Because ain't darshan techila is the first one that says to tell us the story of what's going on in the Torah. And rather, you only have 2 mentions. So what? So how do we learn 3? Because it's cause ve'in bezdin shakal, because you cannot have an equal bezdin. So even though you only have a makar of 2 times, it says Elohim according to Rav Yonasan. The third is because you cannot have an equal bezdin. It says the Gemara, Rav Yosha can agree that we ain't darshan techilais, but the Torah could have said hashoifet from the point that it says the word Elohim. Therefore, Rav Aishia holds that we have 3 mentions. So either 3 mentions or 2 and can have an equal bezdin. Which leads us straight into point number 3 is, are you allowed to have an even bezdin or not? Why does Rav Aishia need the word Elohim mentions 3 times? Does he not agree that you can't have an even bezdin? Says the Braisalim Tazachri Rabim Lahatois. Majority, asilucha bezdin naita. Make yourself an oven bezdin. How can you do that? Says the Gemara. Rav Aishia holds like Rav Yehuda, who says 70 judges, an even number, believe it or not. So Rav Aishia would be'etzim allow a bezdin of 4 or 6 dayanim, aside from the fact that it says Elohim 3 times, which is his real makar. Says the Gemara, no, Rav Yehuda himself only allows an even bezdin by a Sanhedrin, but not other batei dinim. Why? Because Rav Yehuda requires 5 dayanim when it comes to the smicha, the param davar, ein bezdin shakal. So concludes the Gemara, Rav Yoshia allows an even bezdin, even though he has no makars, even though Rav Yehuda does not allow. Rav Yoshia would, be'etzim allow. Lintais requires an uneven number for only dinei nefashe, so it's only over here because it says Elohim 3 times. So Daf Gimel, our camel, our Gamul, our camel with the makar Elohim written 3 times, whether it's From there, we learn out 3, or whether it's because it says Elohim and not a Shefet. We have our Yoshvei Karanais, the simpleton sitting here, that even though Midaraisa, maybe our secretaries will teach us you could judge with 1 case, but Midrabanan you need 3 because of the Yoshvei Karanais. And finally, what are we going to do if we have a split? Are you able to Be'etzim have, Rav Yehuda says 70, but how does it apply over here? Can you have only an even number of Batei Dinim, Daf Gimel, the Gamul, the Camel, in Gemara Sanhedrin?